What do gardeners do in the month of September? Join me this episode as I show you a little bit about what I've done in my garden between seedlings, pulling out plants, prepping for the fall. So follow me in this journey as I show you what I'm doing in the month of September. Happy growing, everybody. September is a month that disease, drying out, dying out happens to a lot of plants. As you can see here with my Roma tomato plant, there's a lot of browning to the leaves, but I still have some green tomatoes here and some red ones that need to be harvested. But here's a little bit about what happens in September. So we left this Roma tomato plant here, but then as we go along, you'll see that the cucumbers are still here. They produce very minimal, and we tried to plant in more cucumber plants, but they seem to catch disease, and I've actually been pretty busy lately. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these out a little bit later in the episode and replace this whole section with a different type of plant. As you can see, we've already started. Down here we have some Tokyo mustards that have been seeded and have germinated. We're going to watch the growth as those come along for the fall season. Over here we have the zucchini plant that is, as you can see, has a bit of powdery mildew. Later in the stream we'll come in and show you how this will be taken out, and we will add more seeds into this part of the garden. Here, as you can see, the cherry tomato plant that produces the orange, very sweet cherry tomatoes is still going strong. Not only are the leaves dying back from the brown, but then we have more of the stems and everything coming out, producing more and more, as you can see here. And for this plant, we're going to leave it for a little while. As you can see, there are a lot of green little ball tomatoes here, and they're all over the plant, and I can't wait to keep harvesting. I think the weather's doing it quite well, and it's going all the way up, and at this point I need a step stool to gather as many of these tomatoes off as possible. Over here we come down, you'll see that I have taken out one of the jalapeno plants, and while I've done that, we also have a lot of the jalapenos that are now ripening. So I've mentioned before, when you see the corking come on the jalapenos, they need to be harvested. We have another over here that has the little bit of the corking on it, so we'll harvest here. The Thai pepper plant is still going strong, but it looks like a lot of the leaves have fallen off. The weather's actually getting to it. So this is what happens when cool weather gets to your plant. You have leaves that fall off on the ground. Your plant gets very bare. So we are going to pick off these Thai peppers, as many as we can, and probably go ahead and discard this plant. I do want to overwinter it for the next season. We're going to just move it right along. And then here, as you can see, I have loosened up a lot of the soil here. Here we will be planting carrots a little bit later in this episode. I'm going to leave as many of the marigolds that will survive, but in here I have discarded a lot of them. I'm going to pull a lot of the dead marigolds out and collect the seeds from them. So one of the highlights from this episode is that we have a poblano pepper plant that I didn't think was going to do anything, but it is now producing poblanos because it's cooled down and it has extra space here. So I'm going to let this plant grow out as much as possible. But in the same token, we have the okra plants over on the side, well, in back of it, that are still producing. So as you can see there, the flower for the okra plant is very, very beautiful. On the inside, there's a little purple tint to it. I love the way that they look. And then, as you can see, we still have more okra that are producing on this. This bush has actually gotten quite tall. I think it's about a little over 4.5 feet. There are more okra here. And then at the top, you can see it's still going to produce more and more. So, and here's another. So those are the okra plants and the pepper plant. Here used to be a Roma tomato plant. We have taken it down, and as you can see, the soil is very moist over here because it's now growing mushrooms in the soil, which is a sign of very moist soil over here. One of the things that we planted over here were watermelon radishes, as well as the cherry bell radish. So I can't wait to see how long it's going to take for those plants to germinate over here. And what we have to do now is just hope and pray that the squirrels don't come in and start digging up the soil over on this side. One of the shockers as the season cools down to me are these strawberry plants. I am going to relocate them, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in another episode. And I am going to do a series that shows how the strawberry plants come up and what we're going to do to sustain them for the next season. So like I said, that's a shocker. You can see lots and lots of red berries here. We're going to come in and pick them a little later for the ones that are not damaged by insect infestation. But here I'm just very happy to see that more strawberries are producing, and they're actually getting larger than what they've gotten all season long. So we come in here, just going to pick off this strawberry here, and it looks fantastic. I've been eating off this strawberry plant, this one alone, for the past couple weeks, and we have quite a bit of harvesting to do out here on these strawberry plants. This one is full of strawberries, so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to leave this one a little while longer, but here they're fairly small but very edible, very sweet. I'm going to leave the ones that have. So here's what I mean by infestation. The bugs come in and they eat these strawberries, and it's kind of hard to be a gardener knowing that you're growing stuff for other things to eat. So I don't know if this was an insect or a little squirrel or an animal, but here we go with an eaten strawberry here. And we have more strawberries that will be coming here that are actually fairly large too. So I'm going to de-weed this garden bed, and we're actually going to put more fall plants out here, or seeds, to make sure that we can go in. And I think this is another one. As you can see, ants or whatever roly-poly bugs come in, they eat the strawberries, and I don't get to them before they get ripe. There we go. In addition to that, we still have the rose bush over here going pretty strong. See a rose here. There are more rose buds coming, and then coming here and here and over here. Before we go into the garden enclosure today, I just want you to see what it looks like from the outside. Because the chicken wire is very much more open, it now has the plant growing on the outside here. It looks like it's going to produce some peppers here. I think this is a Scotch bonnet, just based off of looking in from the outside. I'm going to go in and harvest these a little later. We're going to do something special with these hot peppers growing here. And then, as you can see, we have the habaneros growing on the outside as well. And luckily for me, the bell peppers are not growing on the outside, but we'll go in to the garden enclosure and take a look at what's happening in September. So as you can see, everything's producing very well. There are more than enough peppers on all of these bushes. I went in a couple days ago and I just pretty much started trimming off the limbs here, because they are spreading everywhere. So here's the dragon's breath pepper, and then there are the chicken itzas behind it, and I can't really reach in and grab everything, so I'm gonna crawl in a little later and harvest all of these peppers that are all around, as well as harvest a little bit of the purple basil to make a very good treat a little bit later. So stay tuned to the garden creation series so that you can see. Also, what we've done in September is we pulled the carrots, and now where the carrots are, we'll have purple turnips on this side. As you can see, they've already started sprouting a little bit, and then along on this side it looks like they're a little slower with sprouting, but we're going to have rutabagas on this side. So this is what's happening in the garden enclosure so far, and then soon I'm going to show you over up here. I started some seedlings that are going to go where the pepper plants are once I pull them out to overwinter them. So there's a lot of broccoli, collards, and different plants here. We're going to thin them out so you can see I sowed at least sometimes 3 to 4 seeds, maybe more, inside of each container. But what's going to happen is as they get bigger, I'm leaving them outside because as they get bigger, I want to put them directly in the garden and not have to harden them off. They're already going to be established, very well weathered plants because they're actually seedlings surviving on the outdoors already. Purple Reaper has pretty much grown out of control. On live stream, some people have seen me cut back some of the limbs from this plant, as well as the ghost pepper plant. And at this point, I have noticed that the dragon's breath pepper that's planted on this side has started to grow over on the other side. And you can see that the dragon's breath pepper gets fairly large, but in the end of the day, it looks like it's going to turn like a reddish orange. So this is the dragon's breath pepper. It's pretty much up there with the Carolina Reaper pepper. Very, very spicy on the Scoville heat unit, so it's in the millions. It took the plant for a while to start producing, but as you can see, they're starting off as green. They still have the little white flowers just like any other pepper plant, and they're all mixed in with all the rest of these peppers in here. This is another limb of the dragon's breath. And so this plant itself is getting very big. We're very happy about it, as well as the Carolina Reaper. If I bend over this way, you'll see the Carolina Reaper plant is doing fairly well as well. So we picked a lot of these this morning, and the one thing that I'm extremely happy about is if you take a look over on the side back here, we have some fairly large bell peppers that are coming in. I'm going to leave them for quite some time just to see if I can get them to turn red, because these particular bell peppers are red bell peppers. Okay. Then on the inside of the garden enclosure where we had the carrots, you'll see that I have planted out some purple top turnips. I was trying to give them elbow space, which is why they're kind of spaced out. I am going to come in here, then these mustards out, and hope for great success here. You can see that the soil is very rich. It looks like I must have a lot of worms in this bed because there's a lot of worm castings on top. So here are my purple top turnips on this side. And on this side, I planted rutabaga seeds. They don't seem to have germinated at all. There's just some weeds in here that I'm going to come in and pull out. So since the rutabagas did not come up, I'm thinking I'm going to come in here and just plant something different. Since the carrots were on this side earlier, there was a big harvest carrot live stream. So if you want to take a look and see what kind of carrots I had, please go back and look at the live stream. But for now, I'm going to see if maybe I can plant some carrots on this side where we had the rutabaga seeds that never germinated. So in the month of September, what I also did was I decided that at the end of the day, I didn't have a good season for cucumbers. I did have a great season for squash, but I needed the space. So I completely pulled out all the cucumbers and the zucchini plant that I had replanted for the second time. It definitely started getting too much powdery mildew on it, so you can see it there. I'm not even going to compost this. I'm going to put it in the garbage just because I don't want the powdery mildew. Not sure if it makes a difference or not, but we're just not going to include it in the compost. And in here, I already started planting in some mustard green seeds. So on the other side of it, I'm going to come in and maybe plant some turnips or another type of leafy vegetable here. So that way, at least this portion of the garden bed will be doing pretty good. One of the things that I do to my garden bed is I go in and I toss in some 10-10-10 fertilizer just to make sure that the plants start off very, very well with enough feeding and enough nutrients to help it grow and start along the way with the seeds. So out here, because mustards pretty much, as you can see, sprout pretty quickly, so you probably can see it from the camera itself. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows of mustards here. I'll zoom into it a little bit later, and then soon I'm going to pull out this tomato plant right here, which is the cherry tomato plant. In addition to this Roma tomato plant, it is actually on its way out too. So I'm going to pull all these out within the next day or two, and voila, I have planting space for seeds on the outside is what I'm going to put. But I also, surprise, surprise, I also purchased a few plants that I think that I would have needed to have readily established to put in the garden at this time. So I have some collard greens, some pak choi, some kale, and broccoli, and a variety of other things that I have already started. I found a nursery in New Jersey that had established plants still, because a lot of nurseries are sold out. So what I did is I went, and to give myself a head start for some of the plants, I purchased them ahead of time. So let me just give you a view of what those plants look like, and then I'll also zoom into some of the plants that I put inside of the garden bed already that is not radishes. So here on my back porch is just a view of some of the plants that I bought that I'm going to put out in my garden, as well as put out in a garden that I'm actually going to be working on. So I did manage to source some plants to go directly out into the garden rather than having to start every single thing by seed. I'm actually going to plant out some collard greens that I have here. So all of these are Georgia Southern collard greens. They look fairly healthy. I have them sitting on the back porch because I'm going to give them a good water every day until they go into the garden. On this side, we have some Jade Cross. The small plants down at the bottom are Jade Cross Brussels sprouts. I don't eat Brussels sprouts, but sometimes I just like to try things. So you can see here, these are very much smaller. Then I have some red Russian kale in the back. And then over on the side here, we have this very beautiful pak choi that I'm going to plant out. So I have pak choi that I'm going to do from seed as well. But in the meanwhile, I just want to see how the pak choi is going to be, the ones that we bought from the nursery. In addition to, I have actually a few more Georgia collard greens. So yeah, we have collard greens as seeds that I have started, but we also have some collard greens that are already established to pretty much give me a head start along the way. One of the things that I've done in the month of September is try to learn a little bit more about composting. So sadly to say, my seedlings have had an up-down journey for this particular gardening season. So some seedlings are doing really well, where some seedlings are not doing very well. But those seedlings that did not do well and have died back, I'm not going to waste the starting soil mix that they've been in. So I've made a decision to just pretty much compost those seedlings. So back here, I bought out some of the seedlings that I tried to start. As you can see, they have died and gone to plant heaven. So I'm going to save my labels because I can't use those again. So one side I have mostly like leaves and things like that. And then the other side, I'm just going to put like the soil mix. So I'm going to save these little containers because I could probably use them at a different time. But that's so that's something that happened in September. I've never had a season where my seedlings just die like this. I do have seedlings that I started, and after I started them, I immediately brought them outside for the simple fact of I wanted them to not have to go from inside to outside, because the minute I even tried to put the seedlings outside, they pretty much just died. So here, we're not going to waste any of the soil. We're not going to waste any of the labels. Take the labels, I can reuse them, because I did do something that I'll show you in a second that is going to relieve the fact that my seedlings did not take. So I'm just going to put all this in here. And to be honest, I still have to do a lot more research on composting, but I'm pretty sure that there probably is a right or wrong way, and I just don't know what it is, but it can't be any harm in doing this. But what I did do, let me put this in my little tray here. Okay, so here's my composting bin. Here are my labels that I'm going to save, and I'm going to reuse this tray. And if you happen to join me on one of my lives, I started cutting back some of the pepper plants that are inside of my garden house. I did a lot of harvesting earlier today. I'll drop a picture into the video to show you. I harvested over 205. It was over because I came back and I harvested some more. Over 205 between hot and super hot peppers this morning. So I'll toss a picture up. Maybe I'll put it here of where I harvested peppers out of the garden house. There are tons more that I need to go in and grab out. For now, I'll put these labels in my pocket. And then what I did to combat the issue of me not being able to do seedlings was I started sowing seeds directly into the ground and in pots. So let's take a look at some of the seedlings that I put into the ground. And while I show you that, I'll also show you where I started clearing out space. So during the month of September is what I call D-Day for a lot of plants. It's decision day. Are they going to stay? Are they going to go? And we're going to take a look at where some plants were and what the decision was for those. So if we look back here, the decision was for the tomato plant that was directly here. We got rid of it. And then at the bottom of this, we added some radishes. So we have cherry bell radishes down here. We have watermelon radishes down here. Let me just take a second to show you the cherry bell and watermelon radishes, how they look. We may have to go in and thin them out, but that is quite all right to have to thin them out. So I'd rather have to thin them out than for them not to have germinated and grown at all. So let's just take a look at some of the radishes that we planted in. So we actually planted in two different sections. So I'll show you this section and then the other section as well by the strawberries. So down here is where I sowed the radishes. So we have cherry bell radishes. The radishes here, the cherry bell radishes, will be little round red balls. These are radishes that I think a lot of people can get out of the supermarket. I sowed about 2 to 3 seeds in each hole here in different rows, so I will thin them out. I watered them in, and I think I planted these on September 25th, and they look good so far, so I can't complain. And then over on this side, they're not coming up as fast, but we have the watermelon radish. So these aren't heavily sold inside of the supermarket, but we do see they're coming up slowly but surely, a little bit slower than the cherry bell. Cherry bell should take about, they say, about 20 to 25 days from seed to harvest. So you can see that theirs are doing very good, whereas the watermelon radishes get a little bit larger, but they're also doing pretty good. I sowed more seeds in these because that seed pack happened to be a little bit older. So you'll see here where it's only like 2 of them are germinating, but that's okay. Even if we get a few, that's better than none. So those are the radishes on this side where we removed the Roma tomato plant on this side of the garden. And then on this side of the garden, we also put some red meat radishes. I only put, I think, 1 or 2 rows here, and I did sow those very thick too. So I think I might have put 2 or 3 in a hole. You'll see that some are trying to come up here, and then you see them germinating here. And I did put these in between some other plants that I currently have that's going to be relocated soon. So here we also have the red meat radishes, which I think is very similar to the watermelon radishes. So an update to the green basil is that it is still living and thriving. The more I cut to the different leaf nodes, the more come out. So you'll see that I cut it in there, and then it started growing shoots on the side. So it's still very big. I'm going to cut off this probably sooner or later, but I think that I will be able to at least get at least one other thing of pesto out of here. And then I think what I'm very much excited about is, if I zoom out here, is the hibiscus plant. So the hibiscus plant, I have noticed that I have to constantly water it. But what I do like about it is it looks like we're going to have some flower buds in here soon, and everyone that have been following my content and my gardening along have seen that I want the hibiscus for these particular little things that produce flowers, because in turn I want to use them for tea. There are about, I want to say, about 4 or 5 plants in this one big pot. So one of the learning lessons that I can gather from this is, next year if I plant this particular plant, is to not sow them as many in one pot, but if I do, to definitely use a bigger pot. So here we go again, and if I zoom in here, you'll see all the little hibiscus soon to be flowers that I should be able to pick off and use inside of tea. So if I take a step back, you'll see how tall it's gotten as comparison to the basil. And the reason why the basil is so close is because I'm using the pot itself to hold up the hibiscus plant, because when the wind blows pretty strong, it blows the plant over. One really important update that I want to give to everyone that's been watching content is that you'll know that I have been saving this cilantro plant for seeds. So soon it looks like the seeds are actually coming out, the little green balls on the plant here. But soon you'll see that they're kind of turning color back here. So that means they're almost ready for me to take off and dry out so that they can become coriander seeds. So cilantro has pretty much two uses. It is the leafy herb that people use inside of things like salsa and other garnishes within their food, but they also can use the little balls here that come off of these little white flowers as coriander. And coriander is just another type of spice that people use in the kitchen, and it's taking these quite some time, if we look down here, to get brown enough for me to take them off and dry out for coriander seeds. But looks like we're going to have quite a bit of seeds here, so I have enough for myself and whatever other plant projects I plan on doing. And this is here is mixed in with this Thai pepper plant. I'm assuming that's what it is, just based off of how the leaves are, and that the peppers on it itself were this red color. So we did a big harvest of that this morning. So speaking of the big harvest, let's go in and see all the peppers that I harvested in live stream this morning. I'll give a brief description and say what each one is, and then take it from there. Now, one of the things that I forgot to talk about that happens in April is I go through and I sometimes order new seeds. As you can see, all the new seeds that I have ordered, that I've been going through and determining what's going to get planted in September. And I see what I'm going to plant versus seed versus plant. And there's so many here that I'm probably gonna pretty much wait until spring to plant a lot of it. But the main reason why we're here right now is to really discuss the over 200 hot peppers that I harvested at the end of September, mid to end of September, and I have plenty of more where this comes from. This is 200 plus hot peppers and jalapeno peppers and all the things. So let me just go through in terms of the heat scale what they are. So the mildest pepper that I grow here, this one right here, is the jalapeno pepper. This jalapeno pepper is a mild, moderate pepper heat. It has a grassy, bright flavor, perfect for beginners and everyday cooking. So a lot of people in restaurants use the jalapeno pepper. The next pepper that I grow is the Thai pepper, and the Thai pepper is what I would say small but mighty. This pepper packs a serious heat with a sharp, clean flavor, commonly used in like Southeast Asian cooking, and it has about 50,000 to 100,000 Scoville heat units. So this little tiny pepper packs a lot of heat. The next pepper that I grow here is the Scotch bonnet pepper. A lot of Caribbeans use it in their dishes. It's a staple with sweet, fruity flavor and significant heat. A lot of Caribbeans use this in jerk seasoning. So this is the Scotch bonnet pepper. Some people call it Jamaican yellow peppers. The next one that we have on here is the orange habanero. So this orange habanero is a popular hot pepper. It's fruity with a citrusy flavor and intense heat that's manageable, but for experienced spice lovers, they love to eat habanero peppers. So these are three. The Scotch bonnet has 100,000 to 350,000 Scoville heat units, whereas the orange habanero is also 100,000 to 350,000 Scoville heat units. One of the things that I've grown this season, which I've talked about a lot, is this chicken eats a pepper. So this one, after researching, is a lot hotter than what I thought it would be. So this chicken eats a pepper is in the habanero family, but it's a rare, super hot pepper with a citrusy flavor, somewhat of a wrinkled skin beginning from the Yucatan region. So this very orange, pretty, citrusy kind of pepper has a Scoville heat unit of 1 to 2 million Scoville heat units. So very, very hot. So got to be very, very careful. One of the ones that a lot of people underestimate is this ghost pepper here. It has about 1.1 Scoville heat units. And it's a very super hot pepper, and it starts out as very, very hot, packs a very good punch whenever you get it. And then after the heat has calmed down, apparently it has a fruity flavor. I'm not sure because I have never tried it and never would. And then next on the scale, we have the purple reaper. So you might have remember me saying that when it first comes on the plant, it's purple, and then as it matures and it's on there for longer, it starts to turn a hint of green. It has a little stinger here. I think I must have the stinger on this one has fallen off, but this is a purple reaper plant. It's currently one of the world's hottest peppers. Same extreme heat as the regular Carolina Reaper pepper plant. And this is a heat unit of 2.2 million plus heat for this one. Same thing for the regular Carolina Reaper, and I picked this one up in particular is because you see its stinger here. It has a sweet and fruity taste to it, and it too is 2.2 million Scoville heat units. So these are the Carolina Reapers. Now, the one pepper, and this one isn't fully ripe, but it's going to turn like a reddish orange that I have in the garden. This is one of the world's hottest peppers. It was developed in Wales and considered potentially dangerous for consumption, but you do have a lot of people that still use it. My usage is not going to be to put in any hot sauce whatsoever, but what I'm going to do is dry it out and use it for different pepper flakes, and I actually may dry it out and use it for some type of pepper spray to put on my plants to keep the squirrels and other things away from them. So here we go with the different peppers that were harvested. If you refer back to the live stream, you'll see where I harvested 200 plus hot peppers here. And this is a little bit of what we have done so far in September. So I hope you've all enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a lot. So let's just recap a little bit of what I did during the month of September. I did a lot of harvesting, namely hot peppers, because the weather has cooled down and the peppers are just going crazy over here. I also planted a lot of seeds because in the month of September, my seedlings happen to not do very well. And instead of hardening off my seedlings, I put them out in the garden so that they can go directly in when I pull the plants out. I cleared out some space for some plants that are just totally at the end of their time. And I also decided to get some seeds that are fall tolerant, frost tolerant plant seeds. So I hope everyone has learned something. Make sure you get your seeds, get your plants, and do all the things you need to do for your fall planting. And for those of you that aren't doing fall planting, let's just make sure you put those beds to sleep. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed the journey and keep following me. Happy gardening, everybody, and I hope to see you soon on another live stream or in the comments. So also, if there are any comments that you would like to know or anything you want to know about my garden, drop it in the comments and I'll be sure to answer as soon as I can. Happy gardening, everybody.